Hey, remember when the Mega Man franchise was dead for 8 years, so former Mega Man 9, 10, 0, and ZX developer Inti Creates took the opportunity to pump out loads of Mega Man inspired games to help us scratch our Mega itches? Well, it looks like in recent years, Inti has been at that again in regards to the Castlevania series, which is currently in a similar state that Mega Man once found itself in, despite releasing a few retro collections and a collab with Dead Cells. But don't worry, like I said, Inti has you covered between their Bloodstained Curse of the Moon games, spin-offs based on Koji Igarashi's own spiritual successor, the Bloodstained Ritual of the Night series that harkens back to the 8-bit days of whipping Dracula back to the monster world he came from. Which then brings us to the latest in the line of Castlevania spiritual successors, and this one is a whole different beast. Welcome to the Doki Doki world of Grim Guardians Demon Purge. Instead of borrowing Iga's own IP a third time, Inti Creates decided to utilize the black sheep out of their own IPs as the backdrop for their latest demon hunting adventure. Of course, I'm referring to Galgun, with a star in the middle. The perverted rail shooter that you definitely don't want your family to catch you playing. And honestly, the less that is said about this series, the better. What you do need to know is that Grim Guardians features the main gals from Galgun Double Piece, Shinobu and Maya as the main heroines. However, there is a smattering of characters from all over the Galgun universe that will show up as well. Hold on. Grim Guardians Demon Purge, Galgun Double Piece, GGDP. Oh my goodness. As subtle as ever that Inti Creates. Anyway, in this game at least, the Kamizono siblings moonlight as demon hunters in addition to their no doubt etchy high school lives. And in case the Kamizono name rings a bell, that's because, incidentally, these two are implied to be the ancestors to Copen from the Azure Striker Gunvolt series, because Inti Creates lore do be like that sometimes. Wow, Copen has quite the family, doesn't he? The story opens with series antagonist Corona coming across a mysterious mirror that, for reasons, allows her to have a hell of a time messing with dimensions, causing everyone to be transported to the demon world and transforming the school into a castle that wouldn't look out of place in any Castlevania title. And well, as the trailers go, when a demon's castle darkens the land, two sisters challenge its halls. Perhaps it's because the type of series that Galgun is, but the story is fairly straightforward here and hardly takes itself seriously, which is actually a breath of fresh air coming off of the complicated lores that Inti's other games are known for. Even for someone like me that has a vague understanding of what Galgun is all about, I was able to follow along with Grim Guardians as its own self-contained story just fine, making Grim Guardians kind of approachable if it wasn't for the fact that it's still a Galgun spin-off. I swear, there is always a catch-22 with Inti Creates. The catch this time, as you can imagine, is there are a number of moments throughout the game that are going to make you go, "Oh, Inti, y'all deserve a bunk." Is it surprising? No, not in the slightest. But is it going to limit how many people are going to be comfortable with playing Grim Guardians? Yeah, pretty much. Because I am warning you now, this is Inti Creates off the leash. Longtime fans have been well aware that Inti's horny side has been creeping into their action games for a while now.
Basically, I can tell you that our character designer's vision for Kana definitely came true.
But this may be the first time that they have managed to put out a product that merges the two sides of the company together. The good news is that you can ignore a good chunk of the horny stuff if you simply skip all the dialogue. Oh, I should mention that Grim Guardians comes with voiceovers in both Japanese and English, and quality-wise, both are fine.
久しぶりの投稿になっちゃったわね。今回の悪魔、手強かった。
Alright, now let's hear how that compares to the English dub. Huh. There's a distinct lack of voice acting here. Is my game broken?
Time for some demon hunting. Catch Dragon! Aye, aye, sir! Change! Okay, get in there! Anti-demon machine gun! Dragon! Aye, aye, sir!
You stand before me yet again. Once a fool, always a fool.
Oh, only the gameplay clips were actually dubbed. Well, that kinda defeats the point of an English dub, doesn't it? I guess I'll just keep it to Japanese voices then. All in all, the story isn't exactly riveting, but can be amusing in a silly way for some people. But if you are someone that isn't into the ecchi stuff, I would warn you to stay away or at least ignore the story as much as you can. As for myself, my main motivator to keep playing was the gameplay itself, which I found to be quite solid. So, Grim Guardians puts you in control of Shinobu and Maya, who can be switched between with the press of a button whenever you are on the ground. Similar to Curse of the Moon, or for you Mega Man fans, like how X7 and X8 does character swapping. There's also a 2-player mode that allows you and a partner to control the sisters simultaneously on the same screen. However, there is no online component to this, so unless you can find someone else in real life that's willing to put up with a Galgun game, you're most likely going to be playing single player. Now this is Inti Creates we're talking about, so there is some subtle Mega Man DNA to be found here. And arguably the first example is how the sisters play. Shinobu with the blue highlights like Mega Man X is the long range fighter. Her anti-demon submachine gun doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it does allow you to pick off enemies of a safe distance with a rapid barrage. However, the shots cannot pierce shields, at least early on, and be sure to watch your ammo count because you have to double tap down to reload, just like how Shinobu's Gunvolt Descendant would do it. The challenge is finding a safe opportunity to reload in the middle of a boss fight or encounter so you don't get punished during the reload animation. Sporting the red garments like Zero then is Maya. Being the melee combatant, she can deal major damage at close range with her traditional 3-slash combo. But instead, switching between a sword into a lance, then 3 shurikens on the finishing strike. Reminds me a bit of Model H and Model P from the Mega Man ZX games. Maya is your go-to gal for piercing shields, dealing with enemies above or below, and high DPS. However, relying on her is risky because due to the fact that she has less max HP compared to Shinobu, Maya is the definition of a glass cannon. That is why I only bring Maya out when I truly need her. For example, while both sisters can duck, Maya is the only character that can crawl along the ground. Aside from that, you will find yourself switching between the siblings often to take advantage of their combat traits and also their unique sub-weapons that they can acquire after defeating each boss. You know, like in Mega Man. These sub-weapons can range from offensive, defensive, to items for stage traversal. The lineup is generally good with their own niche uses, though I did have an issue with Maya's origami cranes. They are intended to act as user-generated platforms, but you can't control her aim, so the cranes end up either too low without jumping, or whenever you get the upgrade for it, the cranes would spawn too high to jump to, since the cranes get thrown out too far unless you are directly next to a wall. Either I'm missing something, or I suppose the cranes are only meant for horizontal movement, whereas Shinobu's grappling hook is the answer to climbing vertically, especially with the upgrade that lets you aim diagonally. Lastly, the siblings do have a special that they can use after filling up on pride points. It does good damage, but the drawback is that it has a large wind-up time, so you really need to time it right if you want to hit a boss with it. Or alternatively, because the special turns off your hitboxes, you can abuse it to dodge one of the screen wiping attacks. Now here is where I feel Grim Guardians begins to address some of the frustrations I had with Curse of the Moon. First, there is still a life system in Grim Guardians. You can gain extra lives by collecting pride points and 1-ups, however there is a team mechanic that makes lives kind of a moot point. You see, when one of the Kamizano siblings goes down, the one still alive is sent back to either the last checkpoint or the beginning of the room that you died in. Then you have a chance to find the corpse of your lost sister and revive her at half health, thus being able to continue without losing a life. For that reason, I was hovering around 20 lives or so by the time I rolled credits for the first time, despite the fact that I actually died a lot throughout my run. Another thing that works in the player's favor is when you die in a boss fight. When you go to challenge them again, they will only have regenerated a small part of their health, so you will eventually come out victorious in the exchange as long as you are dealing significant damage on each attempt. By the way, the boss design in Grim Guardians is generally quite brilliant. The designs are awesome, the attack patterns are recognizable and didn't feel cheap. Anyway, it is only when both siblings finally go down that you actually lose a life. However, that only happened because I fell down instant death pits or I had to retry because of an oversight. Let's say, for example, that I used Maya to enter a secret area that can only be accessed with one of her sub-weapons. But Maya dies and Shinobu respawns outside of that secret area. Well, now I can't reach Maya to revive her, so I may as well retry at the last checkpoint. There are a couple of places where the game does account for this, but not every time, so be careful while you're exploring. A couple of other things addressed include the knockback, which is still there and it did still kill me at times, though I feel the knockback isn't as pronounced as it was in Curse of the Moon. And the controls in Grim Guardians are very tight, so you can make micro adjustments on the fly rather than committing fully to every single jump. So on the other hand, Grim Guardians does have a fair amount of difficulty while still feeling modern. On the other hand, lives are pointless when you can just revive your sibling 99% of the time. Then again, that's what the unlockable legend mode is for, where you can't do that no more. Still, it didn't bother me. I was thankful that Grim Guardians respected my time and let me just get on with it. Well, I say that, but there are areas in the game's structure where I feel the player's time can be respected even further. Like I touched on earlier, Grim Guardians is more like a Metroidvania. There is technically more than one path you can take, and you are encouraged to explore and even revisit prior levels of your new abilities to find power-ups similar to what you would find in the Mega Man ZX games, such as health, weapon points, attack, and defense upgrades. In addition, similar to the Reploids you can rescue in Mega Man X5, you can find your fellow schoolmates throughout every level. I say X5 specifically because, like in that game, there is no immediate reward for rescuing the girls aside from a small health refill. Kind of lame, but at least each girl comes with their own unique designs and dialogue, and maybe there is something to be unlocked once you collect them all and deliver their panties back to them. Yeah, that's a side quest. Anyway, while all that sounds cool on paper, I was still left wishing that Grim Guardians took the Metroidvania concept even further. A lot of those alternate paths I mentioned are only unlocked when the plot tells you that they are available, because I will warn you, this game does force you to play all 7 levels twice over before you see the credits. So it's almost not even worth backtracking until you reach that second act of the game. The good news is that the second half turns into a Mega Man game where you can tackle 5 of the levels in any order that you like. So that's cool. What's not so cool is the lack of fast travel points even after you have cleared a level. You can only warp to the beginning or end of a level, nowhere in between. It's all or nothing. I actually screwed myself over once because I backtracked to the beginning of a level before walking into the new level to add it to the locations that I can travel to, so I was forced to replay that prior level once again to get back to where I was. Yeah, not fun. There are physical checkpoints throughout every level, so it feels like a missed opportunity to not reuse those as fast travel points for treasure hunting. And what's up with there being no Metroid style map? The only time you see any kind of map is a rather basic world map at the fast travel screen. Otherwise, the only navigational tool at your disposal is a radar that points the way to the boss or treasure. But the radar will only tell you a treasure exists when you come near it, leaving you to fumble about blindly most of the time. I know that Inti Creates has struggled with map systems ever since the Mega Man ZX games, but given their more recent work on Metroidvania style games like the Blaster Master Zero trilogy that actually has a useful map system, I honestly expected better than what's in Grim Guardians. In conclusion, if you can get past the flawed navigation systems and Inti being horny on main, I believe the gameplay loop of Grim Guardians is quite fun. The levels have distinct themes, a fair amount of enemy variety, though sometimes enemy placement can leave something to be desired, and the bosses are challenging in a good way. If you want your Castlevania itch scratched, this is as good of a place as any to do it. However, beware of the ecchi. If I had to rate it, Grim Guardian's Demon Purge is an easy 7.5 out of 10 for me. With that, thank you all for watching, and for more on Inti Creates and all things Mega Man, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX. Until the next curse we have to break, rock on and have yourselves a great time zone.